All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. Today is actually a repeat episode. I have with us Blake McClellan on, and he's not a dentist, but he works in the dental industry. And this is the second time recording. The first time we recorded, it was interrupted. And from a continuity standpoint, I wanted to I didn't want to just pick up I wanted to do a redo. So, Blake, you were nice enough to redo this. For the audience out there, give a little bit of background, because I think I did you a disservice when we did this the first time. Give a little background on who you are. You're in the space of dentistry, right? I won't do your intro. Why don't you give us kind of a quick background of who you are, and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about today, which is super exciting and relevant.
Yeah, so currently I am the CEO and co-founder of a dental application called Implant Compare, which what we do is we live stream surgeries, courses, lectures, all tailored to perio surgery, oral surgery, implants, and all of that. So that's my startup right now. We're in our second year. And then my other ventures include ProMed Cells, which is a oral surgery, sedation dentistry supply company based out of North Atlanta. And I'm a partner in that company. And then I also am a partner in a Vital Signs Technologies, which is a patient monitoring company focused on dental patient monitoring. So I kind of dabble in a lot more of the oral surgery side, but I've been in dentistry for about 8 years now.
Nice. And for the record, Blake outfitted my offices. All of my offices are sedation, IV sedation ready. And Blake's company helped out, and you were great, a great resource for it, buddy, because it's kind of there's a lot of moving parts and something like that. So I got to know Blake through a couple of my doctors, and we actually went to dinner recently to what was even the point of that dinner? I mean, I think
we were talking about the sedation setup.
Sedation setup, right? And so it was all of us sitting around talking, and then Blake and I kind of went on a different tangent and started talking about we geeked out on blockchain and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. And so really, I want to first I want to go back and talk about the Implant Compare, because it's such a cool emerging technology, and I love that you're leveraging the power of video and the live surgeries. So if you guys are fans of implant dentistry, or that's what you do, check out. Is it on? How does the streaming take place?
So we have the application available on iTunes, Google Play, and our website is what's called a web app. So it functions like an application. So you just go to Implant Compare and use that as well on your desktop, laptop, or whatever. And then when we stream internally. And so we have certain contributors, universities, companies that we either go in person and do a studio production, or we set them up with a back-end dashboard and they go live on their own. Like a dental camera or something like that. My business partner, Zach, he used to be with IBM's Watson team. Now he's with an AI chatbot. And, together we're trying to bridge the gap between tech and dentistry. I think there's a big gap between medical and tech in general, but typically medical has a lot of funding behind it, whereas dentistry is it's its own black sheep in its way, where there's a larger market. However, per client, if you will, the money's not there. Where a spine surgery, a company can net $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off a procedure. Dentistry doesn't have that luxury. So we're trying to take some notes from what's over there and bring in medical, as well as just in tech in general, and bring that into dentistry. So one of our first things has been Implant Compare, and bridging the gap of education and making live video we've seen to be really resourceful.
Your content, I mean, even your Instagram's content is top notch, and it's really, that's not the space that I live in from a procedural standpoint. But I know that one of my partner, actually, you're featuring on, I think, towards the end of the month, right? And you're doing a live surgery with Dr. Andrew Curry, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do a full arch surgery with Nobel implants on the 29th of January. So we're going to stream that. It's going to be a really nice procedure. But we found that the audience watches live content versus on demand 5 times longer. And we have like a live chat engagement feature too. So they can actually type in their questions as if they're in a room or at a study club or a course or whatever it may be. So it really kind of gives them that same experience, but from the convenience of their home or wherever they may be. So we do it all in HD, and we ask the doctor the questions as they come in through the application. We'll ask him and he'll answer as he goes through it. So it's really neat. And I think the surgery on the 29th is gonna be great.
We need to do that. in the cosmetic standpoint front for sure.
We're definitely being asked to go there. I've had a couple endos reach out and ask us. I would, if I went back, I would probably change the name. I wouldn't have done Implant Compare maybe, but we will probably just make a separate application. But we are going to expand out to other things.
Nice.
We're just trying to make sure that we perfect the art in what we're doing now, and then expand out.
How old are you, Blake?
30.
Okay, so I'm very envious of your age and your gumption. And I heard you actually on another podcast recently, and you used the term which resonated with me because I think it's been an affliction in my life, is a terminal entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like a lot of things. Sometimes, it's a blessing and it's a curse, because you get, sometimes you can't say no to this exciting and this emerging stuff that happens either in our field or around you, or you just can't say no because you get so, I don't know, just excited about it. And I suffer from the same affliction.
It is tough. That term came in jest talking to one of my business partners. He actually quoted it in his book because it resonates with, once you have that disease, you can really empathize with that role.
Yeah. So where I was going with the envy of your age is that you've got so much going on and you're wearing a lot of hats, and literally, like, you think about, like, wow, what would I do if I was in Blake's shoes, knowing what I know now, kind of thing. And so I dig it, man. The little time I've spent with you, I admire you, and I'm hoping and I'm an advocate for your successes. So you're going to have a big future for sure.
I appreciate it. I hope so.
So, this is obviously a dental podcast. It's a systems and marketing driven podcast, a lot of leadership, but I also think that we're living in this time where I wanted to get you on to talk about what our divergent talk was over dinner the other night, which was blockchain and the cryptocurrencies, and not just like talk about currencies and can we make money right now and all this stuff, but really what it is and explain the genesis of it, how it will apply in not just the currency application, but into smart contracts, medical records, stuff like that. Because I want to bring this to our podcast because, number one, I think the listeners are very on top of their game. And I think awareness is an amazing thing to have, right? Just either self-awareness or situational awareness is an amazing thing to have if you intend to thrive in this economy, and not just the dental space, but going forward. So I'm excited to, when I thought I was kind of a, well-versed in crypto, and then I heard you talk and I was like, maybe I don't know so much about this.
Well, the secret is no one really does.
Well, that is the cool part too. And I think that goes back to the terminal entrepreneur is when you hear something that's interesting, like literally I become almost obsessed with it, because even just the blockchain itself, obsessed with it because I didn't know much about it. And it was such a cool thing that's going to change the industry, almost like the fax machine and the internet. When you have the fax machine, people are like, the internet, that won't work. Like, this is not going to work, right? It's almost that new. And you only get so many of those in your lifespan, right? In your one ticket on this earth, you get a couple of those like glimpses into categoric change, where the world changes and it can't unring that bell. And so I think this is one of those times, honestly.
I agree, and I would compare it to a few different categories. Like you said, the internet. I think with cell phones, I think as well, in smart devices and then, using them for what we do now as basically our entire life in a little device that we carry everywhere. You watch some of these older movies and a lot of them kind of predicted the future, right? These visionaries in Hollywood, you look at Tron and all these different things, these things are becoming realities. And you have to keep that open mindset. The millennials are going to change things. They get a lot of flack and they're called lazy. And I mean, we are. I mean, we don't even want to enter our credit card number again on an application. We don't want to go outside and wait on our car to arrive. We want it to text us when it's there. So we are finding shortcuts that improve the inefficiencies in life, and we're leveraging technology to do so because we've been raised up on it. And so, you look at stem cells too, right? It's applicable to the medical field. With stem cells, we still don't fully understand their capabilities, and embryonic stem cells and the different kinds of, MSCs and amnion, stuff like that. So, we know they can do great things and we're still exploring them, and we're a little bit more educated on them now than we were 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. There was no way we were going to allow embryonic stem cell research and stuff like that. So now we've evolved and we've adapted it. So I think blockchain is in that same thing right now, where granted it started in 2009 and it was Bitcoin, it was a currency, but it's the algorithm behind it and what it is what's powerful. And that's where we're just now discovering the capabilities and how we can apply that to our everyday life, just like AI.
So we'll make the disclaimer right now, because whenever someone talks about anything finance or currency, the lawyers always say it's wise to just say that we're not financial advisors. This is just a fireside chat about stuff like this. But because I wouldn't want anyone coming back and saying, hey, you encouraged me to invest. So this is by no means investment advice. This is just food for thought in a lot of instances. So Blake, walk us through the genesis, since you know a lot about this. Walk us through the genesis of blockchain, and maybe even how Bitcoin is, because it's somewhat mysterious and it's evolution. So yeah, walk us through the technology so that we can extrapolate some other things later in the conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I don't suggest any trading or investing advice, but I mean, what I've told every one of my friends when I told them to invest in cryptocurrency was put throwaway money into it. So, even if you do decide to go invest, again, guys, put throwaway money into it, not stuff that you need to live and survive. But
because there's horror stories going on right now, and like people taking out mortgages, and like it's just a mess. And then as of today, yesterday was like what they call Bloody Tuesday, one of the worst days in crypto. So I didn't want to cut you off, but like, yes, only invest with money, fun money, money that if you lose it, you're like, all right.
Exactly.
Well, that was fun.
Well, and to date where we're at, right? So yesterday was, Red Tuesday or Bloody Tuesday. It was, it hit below 11,000. I think it actually went down to just below 10,000 at one point on Bitcoin. And so now we're back around 11,000 plus now and stuff. Everything's starting to look green again. But Bitcoin, to go back and start this conversation, we'll say what it is. So Bitcoin is a byproduct of a blockchain. And what blockchain is a distributed ledger that is decentralized. So, and the reason why it gets this name blockchain is that every time a transaction happens, it adds it to the block, right? So transaction number one is block, and it's processed and validated, then that's block one. Then the next transaction would be block two and whatnot. So, and to dive a little bit deeper below that surface, and what that means is essentially it's an ecosystem of a network of computers, which are what are called nodes. They act as validators to the transaction. So I use an analogy, with fantasy football.
And that's like an algorithm. Sorry to cut you out, but that's like an algorithm that determines its authenticity of the transaction, right?
Correct. And there's many of them. So that's the other part of this. There's two names. There's blockchain and distributed ledger technology. They're very similar. I'm actually taking a course on EDX right now on blockchain and business applications and things like that, and the process and uploading. So I'm learning more every day as well.
So so for those people who don't know, like, why would decentralization be a good thing? Because we think about centralization being, well, it's centralized, it's awesome, it's efficient. Why would decentralization be advantageous for us today?
Okay, so let's look at it high level. Blockchain is a network of computers that participate in this ecosystem of transactions and validating these transactions and make sure they're not something malicious. The reason why decentralized is good, let's say that you have your Equifax, right? And all your database is centralized. Now you only have one point that hackers need to attack. They can spend all their time and all their energy attacking that one point because they know that's where all the valuable data is. With blockchain, it's constantly circulating around. And the way that the algorithm works is that it gets even more complex to attack every moment that transaction is taking place. For every second going on, it gets more complex and more tougher and more difficult to attack because it's bouncing around. So it just as you go to point A and you think the data is there at point A, it's already moved to point B, and by the time you get to point B, it's already at D. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's an exponential growth every time. So with that is, in order for a transaction to take place in a blockchain or in Bitcoin, it takes 6 validators to process that transaction. So 6 computers or nodes that act as mini servers in that ecosystem have to say this matches all the data before and the data that you say you want to process. So it says it validates all the transactions that happened before. Nothing looks like it's broken. Nothing in the code or the blockchain looks wrong or malicious. And this transaction seems validated. I'm moving it on to node 2. Then it goes around in some random order and starts going around to different nodes. Now, depending on the algorithm, it may go to the most powerful node or computer or processor on that blockchain, or others do it randomly, or others do it based on how much coin is held, how much of that currency is held in that blockchain, because every blockchain is different. So there's different algorithms that work in different ways. Bitcoin is the most robust or cumbersome and robust process of them all. It takes 6 transactions an hour is what it can process, I believe, 6 or 7.
Yeah. A long time.
Right. And it costs about $10 a transaction. So if I wanted to send you Bitcoin right now, it would take about an hour or so, and then it would cost me $10 to do so. Well, that kind of defeats where one of the big selling points of blockchain is fast transfer of money. That's what the first thing that they're really using it for right now. It's very easy to move currency around on blockchain and process that. And so for that, that's where everybody thinks that blockchain is only a currency, because the big bubble, the big wave, invest in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and all these different ones. And so Bitcoin really is, think of it as gold. It is kind of this gold standard. Most of these currencies have a Bitcoin trade ratio. So you're not really trading all these different other currencies against the dollar. You're trading it against Bitcoin, and then you're trading Bitcoin against the dollar. So at the end of the day, you're really going to, Bitcoin is that stored value. And so it's less volatile, while still very volatile, as we've seen. It is less volatile than a lot of the other ones because of the market cap and the amount of time it takes to process a transaction and all that. So some of these other blockchains, they're not just currency. I mean, you look at Ripple, they want to revolutionize banking. So their algorithm is not as cumbersome. The way that their network works is it's a lot faster, so they can process thousands of transactions per minute versus just a few per hour like Bitcoin. So what they're trying to do is apply this distributed ledger technology to banking. And why, we'll go back to why distributed ledger is so important, is it keeps everybody honest. It doesn't matter. There is no manipulation there. These smart contracts execute an agreement for whatever set price or whatever the terms are. It automatically executes it, and then it always logs everything because it keeps all of that data. And it keeps it safe too, because again, when I said where the name blockchain comes from, is it's a chain of blocks. So every transaction is a block, and when those blocks take place, they're compiled down. So the first transaction is going to be the most secure because it's getting smashed and covered, and all these piles of other transactions are taking place on it.
Bitcoin is kind of like the gateway coin. And I want to get into talking about like some of the coins and the ICO and some of the differences in there. And we'll give kind of a high level, because I think that's super interesting, especially given even we recorded the first time 2 weeks ago, and so much has even transpired in that 2 weeks from the first time you and I were on the podcast, the first attempt at the podcast. But let's back up for a second, go to the blockchain, because I want to see what really was my gateway was learning about Bitcoin, and then learning about like, oh, wow, there's a lot more applicability just universally in our economy. And then I thought dental records, medical records, like things like that we as practitioners really struggle with, because as you know, Blake, we have these proprietary softwares that don't talk to each other. You know, records are not standardized in dentistry. You know, the government tried to do, you know, what is it, the National Health Record or EHR stuff, you know, and that just hasn't really gone into dentistry. And so we're constantly calling other offices, hey, can I get the x-rays? But I was thinking to myself, like, how cool would it be if there was a authenticated blockchain transfer, you know, that was HIPAA compliant and all this stuff from, you know, patient to patient, and we could travel with our records knowing that they were secure, just like a financial transaction.
Yeah. And you know, I'll be honest, listeners are probably still going, you know, what is this blockchain again? So I'll kind of point out the key points of it. So it takes whatever contract or agreement, this ledger that you're going to do, turns it into a cryptic hash, this long letter and number hash, and then it processes into the blockchain, and then it's bounced around randomly. And again, this data is constantly cycling through, and constantly being buried under more data, keep it even more secure. So essentially it's a very fast, rapid way to move data in a very encrypted way and make transactions between users in anywhere in the world very fast and instantaneously. So that being said, everybody is racking their brain on how this applies to their industry and their sector. And like you said, for medical records, there is a company out there right now doing medical records, and their name is Patientory. They're based out of Atlanta, actually. They are on the most of the exchanges. They're known as PTOY, PTOY. I actually do invest in it from time to time. I day trade a lot of cryptocurrencies just because they're so volatile. You can make 20% up in a day. So I buy on dips and I sell on highs. That's just the way that I've traded. It's just safer in my opinion. But that being said, Patientory, what they did is they took these hospitals that have these huge systems, right? There's no need for your dental practice to have the servers that it has and the IT costs that you have. But unfortunately, that's the way the industry standard's been set. Everybody has to maintain their own servers and internet and all that stuff. So, and you're so vulnerable. You don't have some guy in a basement or a team 24 hours around watching to see if there's any type of no one does in this industry.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
And so it's very ridiculous how the process is right now because there's no interoperability and no one can communicate with anybody else. Everything's got their own proprietary version and software. So there's no interoperability with these things. And so the same thing is happening in medical. And I think Patientory is probably seeing that hurdle as well. But what they've done is they've been able to take their servers and turn them into miners. And so for listeners wondering what a miner is, remember we talked about these other computers on the blockchain network act as mini servers and validators. Well, what they do is they take a lot of computing power to keep processing the blockchain and validating all of that data. Well, that being said, they get rewarded with that currency. Let's say if they're a miner on a Bitcoin network and they process those transactions, they get what's called a reward for mining that coin. So they get rewarded 12.5 Bitcoin per block that they mine, which takes a lot of electricity and computational power. So so Patientory has applied that same thing to the hospitals, and they've taken their systems and the things that they have and they turned them into mini miners to help process the data and to encourage them to continue to do this, and made this blockchain health record. So are
they only doing medical right now, this company?
They're only doing medical right now, and it's just such a huge hill to climb. Again, everybody loves the name medical when it comes to tech. Everybody's trying to get into medical. The VCs want you to go that route. I mean, even for me, we did our VCs and our VC pitches and went to these tech competitions and did pretty well actually. And everyone wanted us to go into medical. We even talked to Techstars CEO in LA, and he wanted us to be more focused on Cedars-Sinai and what we could benefit them. So everybody in tech wants medical, and I think that's why they went that route and why everybody goes that route. I think the same product could be used in dentistry, but the problem is scaling it because each client, again, a hospital has this much, an exponential value compared to a dental practice. And so it just takes more time and more work, and that's just how it goes. But it will be something that should be looked at. I think there's been one dental ICO, and for those that don't know, okay, we'll take a step back and say, an ICO is it's an initial coin offering. It's the new term in cryptocurrency, blockchain currencies, if you will. And it's just like an IPO. Hey, we're going to make a company. We have this great idea, and we're going to do this, and we're going to raise money in cryptocurrency. Well, the problem with that is that no one really has a product to market yet. Even Patientory is still, working on getting that there. The only thing that's really being used in blockchain right now is just as a currency and smart contracts, which are easy to execute. But to build a application and build this whole robust system, or, they're trying to get voting on blockchain because then it can't be manipulated, and we can't manipulate the poll stations anymore, and that data stays safe. And so there's so many different things, but again, we're 1.5 to 2 years to having these products really out. So most of these companies are selling a dream, and their MVP won't be available for a couple of years. And so what they do is they make a white paper, and they make a nice website.
MVP is minimal viable product.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Making sure, because
yes.
Sometimes I think different MVP when I'm in the sports stand.
Yeah. So a minimum viable product. I mean, they're really not going to have anything for quite some time. And so really you're just doing a crowdfunding really. And so some of these ICOs too, I mean, a lot of these products don't need a currency to stimulate it. If you have to go buy, let's talk about the dental coin, right? The dental ICO. They think that they're going to get patients to buy into this currency and use it as payment to you clinicians. Well, why would I pay transaction fees and go buy Bitcoin and then transfer that to Dentacoin and then a very volatile currency that may drop 30% in a day? Why would I invest in that to go pay you when I could just pay you in cash?
Yeah, it's the wrong arbitrage for sure.
Right. So again, there's a lot of things that it takes a design thinking session and really evaluating the market. And I had a team together that we were still exploring this for dental records, but we want to see the tech turn into MVPs first, right? Because it really, we want to see it working and make sure that it can execute appropriately, but we wouldn't use a utility coin like that.
But it will, it's one of those things, the more research you do, it's not a matter of if this stuff transpires, it's when, right?
Right. And I think there's a fine line between first to market and best to market, so there's going to be some that just get out there first. And with an ICO, it's really easy. It's easy to do an ICO, initial coin offering, just a website, a team, and a white paper. And so, you put it out there, and then all of a sudden now you have a $30 million company, overnight. So that's why the attraction to cryptocurrency right now is that, these companies are raising money out of nowhere, because you got some 19-year-old kid in his basement, his mom and dad's basement, who has 10 million in Bitcoin because he bought a bunch of it in 2009, for next to nothing, put a few $1,000s in, and now he's a millionaire overnight, or over a few years. So their money to them is still not real. It's still monopoly money. So they don't care. They'll I'll put $100,000 into this little idea. It sounds good. So you're going to see a lot of these companies, these currencies, turn into great companies. I mean, Ripple, in my opinion, is really going to do some great things. Already partnered with Western Union and Amex and all these other different institutions. I think they will revolutionize banking. JP Morgan gave a lot of, the CEO, Johnny Damon, came out and said Bitcoin's a scam and all this stuff. But JP Morgan's been applying for patents with blockchain. They've had like 85 applications shut down or something of the sort. I don't want to misquote, but they're all in it.
It's kind of obvious why they don't want it, right? Because it renders them a little bit, irrelevant.
Right. You can trade on your own now. It's you get on these different trading platforms, and now you're a day trader yourself, and this currency moves around for much lower transactions. There's a lot of benefits to it. The currency is just right now, it has the face value, and it's really exciting. I mean, I got in when the market cap, I think, was at like 50 billion or something like that, which is late to the game.
Really? Wow.
But
I think the coolest part about it is that, being able to cross borders, not having all these fiat currencies that you have to exchange with, knowing that, like, if shit hits the fan and you want to move, and you go off grid, you can take your dollars with you, or you can move to Peru or whatever, and like, you're good.
As long as you have your hard drive, it won't go anywhere. Or on your computer, and it won't go anywhere.
Yeah. So I think that's what was neat about it. And I think the applicability and just the decentralization concept all around in our economy, I think it's cool, because I think when you remove the people who are in power, not to be like, fight the people, or fight the power. But I think when one entity holds the power and tells you yes or no, I think that's not a good thing. Right.
Right. And that's like, again, I would go back to the Equifax deal. They voluntarily just take our information and put it in this server. We have no say on it. It's our valuable, it's our life, into their database, and it gets hacked, and it's like, oh, sorry, you're out of luck. So I think that's where the major applications right now that they see in blockchain beyond currency, the next phase 2 is, if you will, is going to be identity management and logistics. There's a lot of issues with logistics, and SAP's done very well with the logistics management software and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be, blockchain is going to be the new SAP in a sense. It's going to become a standard in logistics, but they're, again, still trying to figure that out. But identity management is the other major key for this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Where do you see the next deployment? Obviously cryptocurrency is just one evidence of the technology of blockchain, but where do you see the next deployment of the technology in our world?
I think,
you just alluded to that.
I think those two, as well as utilizing the smart contract feature of it all. It takes
For like a real estate transactions, even
real
something
estate,
like that?
whatever it may be. Let's say you want to go buy a $2 million, a Saudi prince wants to buy a $2 million yacht or something like that. He just wires the money. It's done. It's a simple transaction transfer fee,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all the titles electronically transferred and all of that. So there will be a lot of applications in that side of things too. It may turn into like a legal Zoom type deal of that. But identity management and logistics, and I take that from IBM. I've met with IBM's blockchain group. They have a product. They have an enterprise solution for blockchain. It's called Hyperledger Fabric, which I've studied in. I'm studying on right now, and they have a few of them now, but they have enterprise solutions for blockchain, so that you don't have to worry about creating this product and getting it out there and getting all these random people to adopt being on this blockchain. To this, again, it's decentralized, so it's only as valuable as the number of people that you get onto it, acting as mini nodes to expand the data out and make it this big spider web effect, so it's even harder to chase the data around. So what IBM does, they have an their enterprise solution, and they cycle the blockchain through their own internal network and servers. So it still has the same idea and concept, but you can easily deploy your product. Another thing that does that is Ethereum. That's like the number 2 currency in blockchain. And what Ethereum wants to be is AWS, or Amazon Web Services, for blockchain. They want to be that turnkey solution for deploying your applications in what they call our dApps, decentralized applications, or DAOs. And so they put these different type of products on their network, and you can easily, I shouldn't say easily, developers still having that problem of transitioning from everything and deploying it over into a blockchain. It takes a lot more deeper knowledge of coding to do that. But Ethereum is going to do really well. I mean, there's no doubt.
I agree. We'll get in. We can actually, maybe this is a good time to transition into talking about some of the coins and the differences and such. As a disclaimer, I'm a big fan of, in my due diligence, a big fan of Ethereum, simply because, I think there's 30 times the amount of development going on the backbone of Ethereum in the dApps. So a dApp is essentially a decentralized app. That's what it stands for. 30 times the development going on, people interested in it. And yes, Bitcoin, I think, is king. But you already talked about the fact that it has its pitfalls as well: slow transaction speed and super expensive. Yes, it may be it may be the standard, and it may be a store of value, just like we love gold in our society, but we don't really use gold all the time. It just sits in a safe, right?
Right.
But it's still the quote unquote gold, like bars of gold or whatever. So, but I think Ethereum is going to be the battery of the I don't know, what am I trying to say? The fuel or the battery for.
I think it's going to be I think it will be that catalyst, really, to taking this from concept to being a proof of concept, and actual working products. And Ethereum is that liaison between the dreamers and the realists in blockchain.
So when will the flippening happen, Blake? I want a date go on record.
I'm going to guess we're going to start using blockchain applications regularly in 2019 for sure.
I meant the flippening from, okay, well, that's good too. I like that. I meant the flippening from Ethereum, second market cap, to Bitcoin, first market cap. Right?
I don't think so. I think I think it's gonna hold on, because I think that the thing is that the more that Ethereum goes up, the more the transactions are gonna cost, right? So because their founder, Vitalik Buterin, who is one of the weirdest guys you'll ever see, and because he's just so intelligent.
He's not weird. He's just living in 2143, the year 2143. He's just from the future. He's not that weird.
And those who haven't met this guy or seen this guy talk, this kid looks like he just got out of bed. He's been on a Mountain Dew bender for 4 days playing, World of Warcraft in his bedroom, and hasn't showered, and he's usually wearing a unicorn t-shirt or something of the sort, and he looks like he's severely malnourished. That being said, he's probably one of the most intelligent people of our generation, and actually very selfless. He is a billionaire, and if he wants to just manipulate Ethereum right now, if he wanted to manipulate it and sell out and go be a billionaire.
Is he really a billionaire? That is you guys need to Google pictures of him and just kind of listen to him talk, because he literally, he looks futuristic to me, but he really is a billionaire.
we're in a new generation where this paradigm shift for billionaires go from Saks Fifth Avenue to the Walmart racks. I mean, these are just
Wow.
different types of I mean, he's one of the founders of the he is the founder of the #2 blockchain platform. The founder of Bitcoin. No one knows who it is. Satoshi Nakamoto. No one knows who that is. That's an alias, and they've speculated, but no one knows who really started Bitcoin. It was just
Right.
some other developers and this one main guy, and then it turned into a Reddit post. Would someone be interested in buying this cryptocurrency in this way? So, there's a lot of applications. I mean, so we're talking about Ethereum. Ethereum wants to do what Amazon's done for cloud hosting. Amazon obtains, I think they're about 90% of cloud storage, way over Google and all of that.
In the global ecosystem, they're 90%.
90% of
Holy
servers.
cow. Well, probably the U.S., right? Because the China, probably the U.S. No.
China does use their own. You may be the United. I'm pretty sure it's
But
global.
still, that's a dominant thing. So
it's significantly different. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one really knows that. That's where a lot of the money behind Amazon comes. It's not the products they sell. It's the cloud storage and the cloud processing that they do. I mean, my app is on Amazon. You use it every day, and it's scalable. It could be $15 a month if you're a startup, or it could be 50,000 or 5 million a month. Depending on, I think Snapchat is even on there, and everybody uses them. And so that's what Ethereum wants to do, is make this ecosystem for decentralized applications to be safe. So let's say that you make an application for just communicating between doctors and sending patient information, between you and the lab, for instance.
Yeah.
They can make a safe application that'll encrypt your data there. So that's what they're trying to be, and bring these applications to market. Then you have what's number 3, which is Litecoin, or Dash is pretty good. I mean, it varies now at the number 3 spot a little bit, but Litecoin is really more focused on being a currency. They have more transactions per hour or per minute than Bitcoin does, several more. And so
I'm gonna pull it up and write on my phone and see what the actual 1, 2, and 3 are, because it changes
currently.
It changes every so often. So right now it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano. Litecoin is number 6, Neo, Nem, Stellar, and IOTA. Those are the top 10 currently.
So I'll break those down a little bit briefly. I'll tell you, Ripple, like I said, I think is going to revolutionize the banking industry. They can do several thousands of transactions.
It's centralized. I'm surprised you like that from a blockchain guy.
But as long as you can centralize blockchain, and even if you decentralize it, so what they're worried about right now with Bitcoin is that these massive server farms will end up taking over all the transactions. And that's what they're worried about. So it's still, blockchain is not perfect. And we're trying to, because Bitcoin was first doesn't make it the best. And that's what we're finding out now, right? But because it's so slow and so robust, it's maintaining that place at number 1.
But that's because it's all proof of work, right? I know we're getting in the weeds here a little bit, but like...
Yeah. So proof of work, and then proof of stake is Ethereum. And then you have Poet, you have ST.
We probably just lost everybody right there.
Yeah. You can get
really nerds talking about. Good Lord.
So I won't go into that, but essentially,
go into that. All right. So we've talked about Bitcoin, talked about Ethereum, talk about Ripple. So you like it, even though it's centralized.
I like it that it's like I said, it's not so much the value of the encryption with it. It's the rate at which they can revolutionize banking and transactions and transfers. Like I do a lot of business in China, and that's a headache to do the money.
The speed, okay.
So I think that's where it's going to really, it's the back end for the new way of doing credit cards. And, credit cards keep getting hacked and all that stuff. And so I think that this will really improve the inefficiencies.
Like a banker's coin kind of thing, right? That's what they're calling.
Exactly. And there's a lot of, and the thing is the ledgers that they have to do in banking too. That's the other thing where they really are going to improve the ledger process and transactions with banking. So I like Ripple. I like the corporate structure behind it. And that's the other thing people have to look at when they invest in these coins. Remember, some are just a currency, and you're just investing in that company. There's another option. So one, you're buying the currency like Bitcoin, and other ones you're going to be buying a currency and that's going to be used in that product. So patient in order to transfer records between other users, they have to use that currency, right, to process that transaction.
Okay.
Utility coin there. Other ones, again, you're just buying kind of a stake in that company. So you
In
have to
hopes
look
that what will happen, Blake?
that the value of that company just keeps growing. Just like a stock, you're buying into an ICO is no different from an IPO.
But in
From
hopes
high
that they
value.
have a revenue model based on the fact that their token or coin is being used in transactions
Right, you're investing in
or
them so that
utility.
they can use that money to go and grow. And so you're investing in a stake in that company. You're just buying
Gotcha.
stake in that company. And so the currency will grow up just like a stock, but that currency is not being used in that blockchain. So that's where IBM, that's where their enterprise solution is really solid, is that you don't need to use a currency to process the transactions. So instead of having
Mhm.
to pay with whatever currency that is and have to deal with that mess, you get the benefits of a blockchain without having the headache of this very volatile currency. So
Gotcha.
that's going to be a big new movement in, to market products, because that way you don't have to sell the whole idea of you need to invest in this currency and hold it, and then you can use the blockchain technology. So do your homework and look at each one. You can Google anything. So when you look at these white papers of these ICOs, Google their algorithm and Google the benefits of it and think about the product they're using. And, again, is it realistic that people are going to go buy Dentacoin and your patient's going to pay you in that and you're going to do that? No, it's not. Now, they're creating this blockchain and maybe they'll be able to do something beneficial with it, but that's just not a realistic idea.
My one of my buddies runs has a private Facebook group for dentists. It's called 10x Dentist, or 10x Technology in Dentistry, and he posed the question to the group: Will anyone use Dentacoin in their practice as a medium? I think I was the only one who responded, maybe because, but at any rate, yeah, I don't see that having legs. The cool thing would be, you talked about transactional fees and such, but one pain point for us as small business owners is, when you have large cases or even small cases, when Amex takes 3 point whatever percent, and because they're the medium for that transaction to happen, that's tough. I mean, that obviously cuts into our net. And so, that was another exciting part when I learned about, like, yes, you could travel across borders with your money, and yes, and maybe getting rid of this intermediary called Amex or Visa or whatever, right? May actually be something that helps us.
Yeah.
So
No, and again, that's why I like things like Ripple. I think an enterprise solution, is great. I don't think we're going to really get this holistic decentralizing everything adoption as much as I wish it would. And, we could decentralize the internet and things like that.
right.
Obviously it would be great, but that's the utopian society that we'd be in. I mean, it's not realistic yet. And so I think, the government's trying to get their hands in it. For those who've heard of Silk Road, it was this marketplace for very bad things. It was it's on the dark web.
It was drug dealers and yeah,
and you name it, anything that could be done illegally, it was done. This was like the Craigslist of Craigslist.
and that was that was really when I was exposed to Bitcoin. God, I wish I hadn't listened to that person. When I was exposed to that in like 2011,
Yeah.
Back then you could have bought, like, I mean, yeah, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be on my own island at this point.
Yeah.
But then I thought, ooh, that looks sketchy. Like, it's only used for like weird transactions that you don't want to be, don't want to be accounted for, right? Because of the security and anonymity and stuff like that. So yeah, Silk Road is kind of the dark web, right?
Right, and the currency that they use it was hosted on the dark web, but it was like I said, it was a Craigslist of Craigslist. It was like really dirty, but and it was on the dark web, which is like this underground internet, if you will, and people were paying for transactions with Bitcoin. It's a very easy way to move money around, and the government can't take it unless it's literally, you can store it in what's called a cold wallet, so you trade it on platforms. But if you have a lot of current cryptocurrency, you download their wallet and it stores it like a safe on your hard drive of your device, your computer. And so you keep it there. And that way, I mean, there's a guy in London, I think he threw his computer out that had like something like 200 or maybe it's 2,400 Bitcoin or something. I mean, it's millions of dollars of Bitcoin in some landmine in the UK. But so it's stored there. So what happened was when the FBI raided the founder of Silk Road, they took his computer. And so now the FBI holds about 200 million, I think, or more. It's somewhere around there of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin.
No shit.
It's locked up in evidence somewhere, hundreds of millions, and they're actually fighting to get to use that currency. They're trying to get access to it. Yeah. So, and that's what happened. I mean, like I said, these people became millionaires overnight. A lot of these people. So, everybody just got into the game. It went up to 20,000 Bitcoin did, and everybody's all excited. Now it's becoming a household name, but nobody really understands it yet. And I always tell people to do their due diligence. And it took me like 5 or 6 different blockchain videos and articles to fully start grasping the concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read several books. I've taken several courses. I'm taking, like I said, the one through EDX now. And I'm still learning all of it. I mean, there's so much to retain, as well as people are still exploring the tech. So
Right.
a lot
It's
of these
so emerging, like you said, that you're so emerging that no one's really, unless you're Vladimir, the guy we just spoke about, no one's really the master at it, right? Because it's such a hard thing to understand. But I think it's like kind of this hope, I wanted to bring this on the podcast because I think, like I said, it's an emerging technology. It may have applicability to us in medical and dental, but also from the fact that, like I said, awareness is awesome on the tech like this, because it's going to shape our world in many facets. Just we don't have that timeline of how it's going to do that yet.
Yeah,
right?
no, I mean, there's a company called there's BlockSafe, which is Trig is their symbol. They want to make smart gun technology to improve the inefficiencies in guns and the ledgers there, about how you can just write on hand, and the FBI just has all these handwritten applications and stuff. So they want to move that into a very rapidly interoperable system for keeping the records of the guns and making sure we track where those are going better. But I think it's applicable in medical devices and logistics. We're going to see, like I said, a big push in logistics with all of this, and seeing how it can benefit things. And I'm still kind of trying to understand on the logistics side how it can benefit stuff. But really, they're a big advocate. UPS just signed up for it. And so I think, big companies are coming into it now, and they're seeing their stocks skyrocket just because of the name blockchain. But
yeah, like the Long Island Tea changed their name to Long Blockchain, like literally a tea company, and their stock, I think, 4x'd in a day.
And that's what's scary.
The pandemonium going on, right? And so a lot of people are investing not knowing what's going on from a FOMO standpoint. I mean, I was guilty of it because your FOMO is fear of missing out, is the acronym, if y'all don't know. And so literally it's this pandemonium that's kind of like, people are thinking like, shit, then we've got people like, John McAfee from McAfee Virus, who started saying like, if Bitcoin doesn't hit 1 million by 2020, I'll eat my own man parts. And like, so it's just causing this like, what do you mean 1 million? Like, so it's this huge thing, and everyone's calling it a bubble, and it's been called a bubble since it was $1,000. And, so it's super cool. And it's a super interesting to learn about a technology that could transform the world, even if you're not going to invest in it. Speaking of,
and that everybody needs to quit being so bipolar with it. Don't go
right,
all in,
right. You're either in or out. Like I have some of my buddies that are in financing or just in bank, and literally I cannot, if I bring it up, they will gut me because they just, we can't even talk about it. But all right, so we made the disclaimer, it's not financial recommendations, but if someone's interested and they want to learn about some of these altcoins, they're called altcoins, things that are off the Bitcoin or Ethereum. Altcoins are stuff that you had already made reference to. So if someone wants to look at some cool technology or something they want to look at investing in, or just learning more, what would be some cool ones out there that you like, Blake?
I like Neo. They're like Ethereum for the Asian market. They're really trying to focus on getting China on the same page. And so there's been a lot of speculation, but I really like Neo. I'm in a bunch of different WhatsApp groups with different traders. A guy has got he's starting his own hedge fund in Argentina for cryptocurrencies. So that's why I believe in the longevity of it all. Is we see people starting hedge funds who are really intelligent people. So that being said, I like Ripple. I like Verge. Its symbol is XVG, and because they have what's called a atomic swap. You can swap one currency for a different currency, and it'll probably be that dirty currency where, it's used in illegal transactions probably or so, but I'm trying to monetize it on the trading it basically.
Was that the Wraith protocol?
Yeah. Wraith protocol. Yeah, exactly. So,
so it's XVG. What do you think about Stellar? Cause I know that's actually got some influence from IBM. Now we talked about IBM and their blockchain. I know that they're kind of involved in that.
I've had Stellar since it was a penny. It went up to, or actually just sub of a penny. So I think it hit 69 cents last week. It's about 38 cents or something like that. So that's one I've been a believer of early. I think financial, I think is a very, like I said, once you understand the tech, then you'll go, okay, I see what I want to invest in here with these type of techs. I
That's
think
great advice.
I like the marijuana coins, and I'll tell you why. Is because right now they can't bank, they can't use the banks for because of the federal laws and with.
What are some examples of those?
It's actually there's one that are symbols THC, the hemp coin.
Yep,
So,
makes
there's
sense.
cannabis, and the THC is the one I hold right now. There's hemp coin, there's cannabis, there's a few others. So look at those. I think again that's a great application for them because then they can kind of legitimize what they're doing. Something people need to keep in mind is that North Korea, Venezuela, other countries who are being banned from using their currency have a lot of money and they need to somehow use it. So North Korea has been trying to hack these trading platforms like crazy, and they've got a lot of speculation that they have a lot of Ethereum and I think Bitcoin as well. But again, you got to realize there's countries who are putting Estonia is trying to make their own cryptocurrency. So is
because their currency is failing, right?
Right.
Now you have countries that actually are doing mass adoption of this because like you just talked about Venezuela and doing they're trying to do their own petrol or something like that, right?
Yeah, they're going to back it with oil.
Because their fiat currency or their paper money is failing.
Right, and you can't manipulate it. I mean, Zimbabwe, they're trying to. Everybody in Zimbabwe is apparently buying Bitcoin like crazy, and so, it's one of those things that there's a lot of benefits on the currency side too, because it can't be manipulated. It can't. I know there's the dark side of it is that let's say that you're an embezzler and you want to put a bunch of money somewhere.
Right.
But you got to realize that there are billionaires who are drug dealers out there in this world, and that means that's money's in this thing. And so that's again why I feel secure in this currency, because there's all types of people involved. I think the last I checked, it was at $475 billion in cryptocurrency right now.
Maybe today after Bloody Tuesday, but it was approaching. Last time we were talking, actually, it was approaching $1 trillion.
Yeah, it was at 650 or 7.
So it's here to stay, right? It's not a fad. I think it's here to stay, whether it's currency or technology or what. But there's only $150 trillion of money supply in the entire world, and so when you start talking about a trillion, like it's not going anywhere, right? It's only going to grow.
And as you lose faith in your governments and your countries and your currency, and I'm not talking about just the U.S., I'm talking about just any country in general. I mean, South America, the rand compared to the dollar is way down, So there's a lot of benefits to this and some security there. I always I put in when I trade, I go on what's called Bittrex. I have an account with Coinbase, Kraken, and Bittrex. They're all trading platforms. Coinbase is the first one for anybody who wants to start trading. That's the very easy enterprise solution one. And you get on there, you can buy Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin. That's a good place to start. Then educate yourself before you get into this. Don't just look at it from numbers side. It's very weird. A lot of people get on Twitter and think that that's where all the knowledge is. That's where all the manipulated knowledge is. See, that's the other thing about this is that people are so bipolar with it that it can be easily manipulated. So, I lived through what was called the China FUD, and you have too. And what it was is just China was banning all cryptocurrencies.
Tell everyone what FUD is.
What is the acronym standing
Fear,
for?
uncertainty, and doubt.
That's right. I didn't want to mess that one up.
And so they create this pandemonium in order to manipulate the price.
Right. And it's just speculation a lot of the times. And like right now, the speculation is that the government's coming down on it. Well, if you understand the tech, you'll understand how hard this is to police in order to stop.
Well, you can't stop it unless you stop the internet, right?
In a sense, unless you control 51% of that network. So if I had control of 51% of the servers on Bitcoin, I could do whatever I wanted with it.
I see.
Because again, it's a democracy, so it takes 51% vote. And so it takes 51% of the computing power basically to do it, or the nodes on the system. So that being said, I do think there's going to be strict regulation coming down on ICOs. There should be. This is becoming, guys got to be very careful. There are a lot of scams on these ICOs because it's so easy to start. But yeah, I mean, I would be very skeptical of these ICOs and make sure that you vet them. And I would look more to altcoins that have been around for a little while and have really solid teams. Look at the people, the founders' LinkedIn's, get familiar with who's really saying they're there and find out that there's something there anchoring them down so they don't just jet set and get out of here and go live in Ecuador or something.
So you talked about Twitter being the place where there's a lot of FUD and not a good place to do your due diligence. Where is or where are some places to do due diligence?
I think that you should get on Twitter and just take it for a grain of salt. So I tend to trade opposite of what Twitter does a lot of the times, because I'm going, all right, I'll look at these KOLs or these big influencers on Twitter, and I'll go, okay, they're saying this, they're going to manipulate it. They're going to do what's called a pump and dump. They build it up and hype it up so a bunch of people buy in real quick, and then they sell, and then they rebuy when it takes a 20 to 30% hit and drops back down. So I would still look at Twitter and just find the companies that you're investing. That's a good way that they communicate. On these ICOs, they usually lead what's called their Slack channel. Slack is just like a very nice message board that a lot of tech companies use. So you can get on there and see their different channels on development and pipeline and where they're at in the roadmap. Also, Reddit is a great place. You can get on there's tons of subcategories for each currency. Usually Reddit's a great source. LinkedIn, there's been a lot of great influencers there now that are posting some great articles on Medium and stuff like that. Honestly, it's going to take you doing your own research, because the information out there is only as good as the writer. And because we're all still this blank canvas of blockchain technology, granted, there are some very intelligent people who know it and have made the algorithms, but they're pretty quiet people. These ones that are boasting knowledge and information, you want to be very skeptical of, and make sure you have some way of vetting them and validating them, and confirm that, like, test them out, watch them for a few transactions, see if they're accurate, and then you could go that way. Then a lot of people are selling little message groups. They'll sell access to their WhatsApp groups so they can give you trade advice and stuff like that. Again, be careful there. But really, I just tell people to do your homework, do your own research, which you'll see that on Twitter all the time, DYOR. But do your own research and make an educated decision about it. And then don't throw anything that you're dependent upon.
Not red money. I'm
long on blockchain now. I don't think now, because we just took a big hit, we're going to see some climbs. I think in my prediction is going to be around 25,000 by the summer for Bitcoin. I think Ether will be probably in around the 2,000, 2,500 range. And the other ones, who knows? I mean, Ripple may be around $4 or $5, but a lot of these, the point of them is to keep their currency, from getting too crazy, because then their transaction costs go really high.
Right.
So, I like the last one I really like is Patientory, like I was talking about, Patientory, because again, I think you're right. I think medical needs this. And so I'm still exploring, looking at doing this for dentistry, but it takes a lot more research, and it's going to take a lot for the market to make that paradigm shift.
I agree. Especially with our, like I said, our proprietary software, and it just nothing being standardized. And so it's probably not going to happen, in my, well, I shouldn't say in my career, but probably in the next 5 years is probably not going to be mainstay still. I don't know. Who knows how things move quickly, right?
Well, these millennials are taking over, so we'll see.
True. Millennials are smart. The last thing I was going to have talk to you about, and I know we got into the weeds, but it's interesting to me, and hopefully, I may even make the disclaimer before I start this podcast that, like, hey, it gets pretty not intense, but we go pretty deep into this, so it may not be for you. I may make a disclaimer. If you want to learn about it, it's an awesome venue. But Blake, it speaks volumes of your knowledge of this speaks volumes about how passionate you are in your 9-to-5 job, right? And so I think if anyone's thinking about concerns about, or not concerns, if they have any implant questions or want to set their office up for sedation, all these things, obviously you're a world of knowledge in something that isn't your mainstay. So I can only imagine the wealth of knowledge you are in our field. Do you have anything else to kind of add in kind of closing about Bitcoin, or anything that I haven't given you an opportunity to talk about? Anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate it. I will add, just because the timing, since our last time we did this, there was talks that Korea was going to come down. South Korea was going to start banning cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. All they're doing is investigating the trading platforms. When you guys hear the news, it's really just legitimizing these trading platforms and ICOs, which it needs regulation and that side of things. But look into the tech, explore it. Look at what IBM's doing. It's called hyperledger.org, I believe. It's the Hyperledger Fabric is what the one ecosystem working with IBM. But look at what they're doing and the companies behind it, even Pfizer and all that's behind it. I mean, there's a lot of major players putting a lot of money into this, and explore the tech and understand it, because the more dentists that understand this, the more likely it's going to be coming into our industry. And that, I think, it's going to be very beneficial for not only you guys, but for the patients.
I think it'll move faster than I actually thought now, because you're right. Dentists are inherently very smart and very techie, believe it or not. So
Yeah.
more so than I think even some physician counterparts, because we have a lot of, we have to know a lot about, a lot of disciplines in our field, and we love the tech. That's actually a running joke in our offices, that we'll buy the fancy object when we go to the conventions. So I think that can be extrapolated into even just virtual tech almost. I'm calling blockchain a virtual tech. So maybe you're right. Maybe this will be implemented much faster than I anticipate, and that would be bueno in my mind.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look at how many 3D printers are in dental offices now.
Right?
I wouldn't have
Isn't that
guessed.
cool? That's cool.
So, well, thanks for the kind words, and thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Man, you're a cool dude, Blake, and I appreciate you coming on twice now, even though I'm only going to publish it once. You're a cool dude, and I wish you nothing but success, and I hope I can help you play a part in that success for you, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Blake. Appreciate it, man.
Cheers.